Hi everyone, today I'm doing the Unpopular Opinions book tag that was created by the Book Archer. I will link her video below. Everyone did this tag like years ago and I'm only doing it now, so I'm not going to delay any further. Let's start. The first question is a popular book or series that you don't like. I'm gonna have to, or didn't like, I'm gonna have to go with this. This is The Kill Order by James Dashner. This is my least amount of stars awarded to a book. I read it with another person, so I wanted to finish it because they were reading it, and I also heard that something happens at the end that tied in with the rest of the series, so that's what motivated me to finish this. If not for that, I most certainly wouldn't have finished it. I wouldn't say I had fun, but it was an experience reading this. Because you know how you can update what you're thinking about a book on Goodreads? I was updating a lot. Like, I had a lot to say about what was going on in this book and what was wrong, and how I couldn't believe that it was getting worse. I'm getting worked up. Yeah, I really didn't like this. It was just really not good. And it sort of colored the way that I looked at the rest of the series. Looking back, I have to say that the books aren't as good as I may have thought they were. The writing isn't, 5-star. I gave The Maze Runner 5 stars. My reading experience with The Maze Runner was 5 stars. I really loved it. It was very exciting and fun to read. But in terms of, the writing, it's not a 5-star book. Number 2, a popular book or series that everyone else seems to hate, but you love. I don't know if everyone else seems to hate this, because everyone else seems to pick this book for this question. Twilight by Stephanie Meyer, the Twilight series. Listen. Twilight. It's Twilight. It has many a flaw. It is not the best written. And looking back at how much I loved it when I first read it, I was a little bit delusional. But my reading experience again of this was the best. This is the book that got me into reading. I was reading this, and this was the only book, or this series was the only series that existed. I was just reading the books over and over and over again, and then I'd borrow it or lend it to a friend, and they would read it, and we talk about it, and they were like, time to reread! So I was just rereading this and talking about this all the time. I think also if I read Twilight again, I would enjoy it. Just the nostalgia, and also it's not completely bad. There's a lot of flaws, but it's not completely bad. The first movie as well is a movie that I could rewatch again. The rest of the movies not so much. They're terrible. But the first movie, the soundtrack, the way it's filmed, the awkwardness, I just enjoy it. Number 3, a love triangle where the main characters ended up with the person you did not want them to end up with, or an OTP that you don't like. I feel kind of lukewarm about this question because I don't really have a concrete, I didn't have a thing that I thought of immediately, or a relationship that I thought of immediately. I don't have a love triangle for sure. And in terms of an OTP, there's a few relationships where I'm the chemistry isn't really there, but it's nothing that I'm I hate this. So I'm gonna go with a lukewarm answer and say, not Paper Towns, but John Green's characters, specifically the 3 books, not The Fault in Our Stars and not the new one, but the other 3, this one included. The relationships and the characters are pretty similar to each other, or the characters are pretty similar to each other, and I don't really like them. I maybe need to reread his books, but whenever I think about his characters, I'm no, I'm not a fan. So yeah, but not in a harsh way, not in I hate them, just in a lukewarm way. And so in terms of their relationships and who ends up with each other, I'm I don't really care, I just, whatever. Number 4, a popular book genre that you hardly reach for anymore. And I'm gonna go with paranormal because I read a lot of paranormal. Twilight, of course. But what I want to talk about is historical fiction and Tracy Chevalier. I used to, one of the first videos, actually, because there was more than one, on this channel was reviews of her books because I loved them. The Girl with the Pearl Earring was one of my favorite books. I loved it so much, and I love historical fiction. When I think about historical fiction, I'm that is so good. I like learning about history and also having it be fictionalized and having a story intertwined with it, and I'm that is so cool. Why am I not reading that? Why have I not read this book? And why have I continued to, well, not really continued, but like every once in a while, like bought a Philippa Gregory book because I want to read a Philippa Gregory book, but I've still yet to read a Philippa Gregory book. Number 5, a popular or beloved character that you do not like. The first person that came to mind when I thought of this question is a character that maybe, you know, people don't necessarily love her. She is a popular character. It's Lena Sardothian. Like I just don't like her. The more I read, the more I disliked her. Number 6 is a popular author that you can't seem to get into, and that is Sarah J. Maas. I read 4 of her books. I read the first 2 books in the Throne of Glass series and the prequel to that. And I also read the first book in the ACOTAR series. Every time I've read a book of hers, I'm like, I am enjoying this. I like this. This is a genre and a storyline that I really like, and there's so many more books that I can like continue to read. Like the series is going to go on, so that's exciting. But like every time I read one of her books, I was like, I want a little bit more. Like it's just not reaching the level that I want. Like I just want the story to be a little bit bigger or better, or the characters to just be like a little bit, have a little bit more depth. Like she was always falling short for me in some way. And I always felt like that. And then the ACOTAR book, I really didn't enjoy the first part of that, and then the second half I did. But there were a lot of like problems with that and things that, like other things I didn't like. So I've just stopped. It's been a few years since I read a Sarah J. Maas book, and I don't think I'm going to in the future. Number 7, a popular book trope that you're tired of seeing. So there isn't really a book trope that I'm tired of seeing. That's a lie. There is. But I wanted to say with this question that I really think it depends on the author and the situation. Like, you can have a love triangle and make that work. I've yet to see that happen, but like I feel like it just takes the right author to be like, I want to twist this around. I want to like do something different with this and like take a love triangle and make it work. I would read that book. That being said, a trope I don't like is the whole parents who are absent thing. Not when they're like dead, but just when they're like they're there, but like they're always at work. Like, where are they? Like, do they not notice that you're, like, doing all of these things? And also the whole, like, when they're not going to school or they're not having homework or having assignments, like, what are you doing? Like, are your teachers just not noticing you? Do you, like, you're not going to school so many days in a row, you're not getting detention? Like, what is happening with that? How is the real world not noticing what's happening with you? And that, like, all of this craziness is happening? Why is a 16-year-old starting a revolution when there's like a 30-year-old who has military experience and knows what they're doing and like wants to start a revolution? Like, why would the 16-year-old accidentally start a revolution when there's like someone else who can start a revolution? Like, why can't we get a 30-year-old revolution story, is all I'm saying. Number 8, a popular series that you have no interest in reading. I'm gonna talk about some authors as well in this question. Starting with Colleen Hoover, I have just no interest in reading a Colleen Hoover book. I've heard good things. I've also heard really bad things, and I just don't have any interest. Like, it's just not for me. The second person is James Dashner. Listen, we already got into it. The writing isn't that good. And other than the Maze Runner series, which I think was a really good idea, like the idea for that book was really good and really interesting and worked really well in a story. But other than that, like he's had other books, and I'm just like, I don't care. And also I've heard he was like part of the stuff came out about him during the Me Too movement, I think. I will link it down below. I think him and Daniel Handler and Jay Asher, I think Jay Asher or James Dashner was dropped by their agent, I'm not sure, but stuff has come out about all 3 of them, and I will link all of those things below. I really didn't like 13 Reasons Why. I didn't like the premise of it, but I thought, like, that when I read it, it would be, like, that it would, like, be better than I thought it would be. Like, I don't know, I just didn't like the idea of it, and then I didn't end up liking it as much as I wanted to, or was hoping to. And then also there's like things that have come out about him that I will link below, like I said. And then Lemony Snicket / Daniel Handler, who's the same person. I have these books from him, and I just have had them for such a long time, and I haven't picked them up, and I just don't think I'm ever gonna. Like, this is the All the Wrong Questions series. The last question, number 9, is, the saying goes the book is always better than the movie, but what movie or TV show adaptation do you prefer more than the book? So I have 2 for you. The first one is The Hunger Games by Susan Collins. I enjoyed this book, but the movie was perfection. It was the best book to movie adaptation I've ever seen. It was just like every time I watch that, I'm just like astounded. When I watched it the first time, I was like breathless by how good it was. Like I was not like they didn't have to do that, but they did that. And yeah, that is the best book to movie adaptation I've ever seen. And then another book to movie adaptation is Me and Earl and the Dying Girl by Josie Andrews. I didn't really like this book, but the movie was so good. The cinematography, the style of the movie was so amazing, and I enjoyed watching that, but I didn't really enjoy the reading experience. I think with this, if you don't like the humor, you're not going to like the book, so I didn't really like the humor. So those are my unpopular opinions. This is so much fun to film. I feel like doing another one. I was thinking about doing the opposite of this tag, like doing my popular opinions. It won't be as fun, but like it is fun to like talk about things that you love. So yeah, if you want me to do like the opposite of all the questions for this in another video, then definitely let me know in the comment section below. If you disagree with me about any of the things that I said, fight me in the comments. Let's do it. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.